Take you live to Whitney Block, where Mart Stiles is commenting on a move by Doug Ford keeping documents from cabinet minister's office secret.
Are actually trying to hide from the public. You know, even Donald Trump hasn't changed the FOI laws, and he's all over the Epstein files, for goodness sake. So I'm really deeply concerned about this, and I will say, I'm sure all of you are as well, because we have, right now, I was just reviewing it, many requests for information submitted as we speak on all kinds of issues. I mean, I wrote it down. We are looking into private staffing agencies. We're looking into Metrolinx. We still have freedom of information requests in on the Skills Development Fund. Just yesterday, one of our staff learned that we can get, I've got confirmation that the government's AI prompts are actually FOIable. So we're kind of wondering which one of these requests, or of your many FOI requests, was it that triggered the government so much that they're going to change the laws to hide their own corruption. It's outrageous. So I mean, obviously you can tell I'm not happy about this. And again, I'm wondering what it is that all of us were looking for that triggered the government to go ahead and change the laws in such an extreme way. I was, of course, not at the press conference that was held to announce this. I understand it was a bit of a murder scene. I am absolutely appalled that the government would take things in this direction, and I'm happy to take your questions.
But can you just clarify your comment on this is the biggest change since the Liberals last met?
Well, look, I mean, we're going to have to look deeply at what they're actually proposing, but I understand that they said that they were bringing it in line, laws in line with other provinces, but I can tell you from just a few initial contacts with folks who are really experts on these things across the country, what we're hearing is these look like the biggest changes that anybody's seen in decades. And, you know, certainly that makes sense because we're seeing the most corrupt government that we've seen in decades. I don't think we've seen anything along these lines in terms of their corruption, the Greenbelt scandals, the SDF fund, et cetera, since probably the gas plant scandal under the Liberals.
So the government says that ministries will still be FOIable, just not ministers' offices. Does that give you any confidence that some of this information will still come to light?
So what this means is that, yeah, sure, you can get information about what one civil servant says to another civil servant, but if the Premier's office says something to a civil servant, sorry, you can't access that information. If a minister is talking to a minister, or the Premier's office is directing a minister's office to do something, we will not know. And let's be very clear, these are public servants. Every single one of us is a public servant. And so as such, everything that we do and say should be subject to freedom of information laws. The people of Ontario have a right to know what their government is doing and how decisions are being made. And I think, frankly, any government should be quite fine with that because obviously we're public servants. Everything we do should be in service of the public. So if you're suddenly changing the laws to hide information that up to now for many generations has been subject to freedom of information laws, what are you trying to hide? And can I just say one other thing to Doug Ford directly? Premier, don't worry, because when the RCMP come a-calling, they're not going to need freedom of information laws because they're going to be bringing warrants.
Can you just explain that, what you said? You're saying that the government's assertion that this is not, you're saying it's not in line with most other provinces and the federal government?
I'm going to look into it deeper, but I will tell you that an initial review, talking to some folks who are access information through those laws around the country and at the federal level seems to show that this is not in keeping, but we're going to have to parse through what the government is proposing. I have to say, though, an initial look, I think they're going way and well beyond what other provinces and the federal government allow.
Is this a move just to protect the Premier's cell phone records, which are court is?
100%. 100%. This is all about Doug Ford trying to hide his cell phone records, his emails, his staff's emails. And again, I just want to be very clear, because I look around at all of you journalists, And I know what this is going to mean. I'm sure many of you have freedom of information requests in right now. This is going to also hinder the ability of journalists to do their jobs. It's going to hinder the ability of the opposition to shed light on issues that the public cares about. No government is going to shut down freedom of information laws unless they're trying to hide something. And we know that the Premier doesn't want to share his personal, what he considers his personal cell phone records, even though he's using government devices as well. And he's using personal devices to do government business. We all know that. And yet, and courts have decreed that he needs to release that information. And so rather than release that information, they are going to change the laws. What does that tell you about what this government is trying to hide and what's at stake?
But Margaret, the minister told us that this is the most transparent government, and this will bring more transparency.
And you know what, Emily, I am sure that, they looked you in the eyes and they said that, and I am sure that they weren't thinking at all about the extraordinary work that you and other journalists here have done over the years, and the information that you have been able to access through freedom of information laws. This government is trying to shut you down. They are trying to shut the media down. They are trying to shut the public's access to information down. They have, I've called this government corrupt before. I've called this premier corrupt. I stand by that. And I think if you ever wanted any more evidence that that was the case, you have it now. Because no government who has anything to worry about, if they had nothing to worry about, why would they change the freedom of information rules? Why would they try to shut down people's access to information? And we know they've also made it really hard, like we all have. All of us have requests out there that take forever. We know how hard they try to prevent us all from getting that information. Again, it should be very clear to everybody that this government now has reached a point where they think that they have to change the laws to hide their corruption.
Do you disagree with the whole plan, though?
We've been listening to Ontario NDP leader Mart Stiles at Whitney Block down at Queen's Park. She's commenting on a move by the Premier, Doug Ford, to keep documents from cabinet ministers' offices secret when it comes to Freedom of Information Acts.